The market was alive with sound and color. Stalls overflowed with bright fruits, steaming food, and shining goods. People moved shoulder to shoulder, voices rising as they bargained and laughed. It was a place full of life, yet for one alien woman, it was a place of shame and pain. She walked slowly between the stalls. Her head was bent low, her thin arms pulled close to her chest as if she wanted to hide. Her clothes were torn and her hair hung in messy strands. But what pushed people away was not her appearance alone. It was the smell. The odor clung to her skin, heavy and sour, the kind of smell that made others cover their noses and step back as she moved. The crowd opened, not out of respect but out of disgust. Parents pulled their children aside. Vendors turned their faces away. Whispers began to spread, cruel words that cut deeper than any blade. "There she is again," someone muttered. "Why doesn't she wash?" another sneered. "She smells worse than a trash pit," a young boy laughed, pointing at her. The woman kept her head down. Her shoulders trembled, but she said nothing. She was hungry. For days she had eaten almost nothing, and today she had come with the little coin she still owned, hoping to buy bread or dried roots. She approached a stall, the smell of fresh bread making her stomach twist with longing. The vendor saw her coming and stiffened. His eyes narrowed, and he pulled his basket closer. She whispered, her voice soft, asking for a small piece. She held out her coin with shaking fingers. But the man waved his hand sharply. "Go away," he said loud enough for others to hear. "I don't sell to people like you." Her hand froze in the air. Slowly she lowered the coin. Her lips moved, trying to form words, but nothing came out. The rejection burned inside her chest. Around her, people laughed. "She should not be here," a woman said. "She makes the whole place smell," someone else added. The alien woman turned away from the stall, her throat tight, her eyes wet. She walked further, trying again at another place, but the answer was the same. One vendor shook his head before she even spoke. Another waved his cloth at her, as if chasing away a stray animal. Everywhere she turned, doors closed before they could open. Children ran behind her, covering their noses dramatically, mocking her steps. One boy threw a rotten fruit that hit her shoulder, leaving a dark stain. She flinched but kept walking. The laughter grew louder, crueler. To them she was not a person, only a joke. Inside she wanted to scream, to tell them she was not always like this. She had once been clean, proud, and loved. But her life had fallen apart. Misfortune, hunger, and loss had stolen everything. Now even dignity was slipping from her grasp. Still she did not cry. She had cried too many tears already. Now she only moved, one foot in front of the other, holding her coin as if it still gave her some worth. The market grew brighter with the sun. Yet for her, the world was darker than ever. Each step was heavy. Each whisper cut deep. She wondered if today she would return with nothing once again. Hunger would gnaw her belly, shame would press on her heart, and the cycle would repeat. But, as she walked, someone was watching. In the corner of the market near a stall of worn tools stood a human man. He had seen the whole scene. He had seen the vendors turn her away, the children mock her, and the rotten fruit hit her shoulder. He had seen her silence, her shame, and her struggle to keep walking. Unlike the others, he did not cover his nose or turn his head. He looked at her with steady eyes. Something inside him stirred. Not disgust, but pity, even anger at the cruelty she faced. The alien woman did not notice him yet. She only moved forward, shoulders bent, still clutching her coin. But soon her path would cross his, and her life, which seemed stuck in misery, was about to change. For now, the market remained loud with laughter and gossip. For now, she remained the outcast. But a new thread of fate had begun to weave, and in that thread, dignity and hope waited to return. The human man stood in silence as the crowd mocked the alien woman. His name was Daniel, a worker who came to the market every week for tools and supplies. Today, however, his attention was not on the stalls but on her. He watched how people pushed her aside, how they covered their noses as if she was less than dirt. He saw the way her hands shook when she held out her coin and the way her eyes lowered in shame when every vendor refused. His chest tightened with anger, not at her but at them. Why did no one see what he saw? Beneath the dirt, beneath the smell, there was a person. A soul still standing even after countless rejections. She had not cursed, had not fought back, had not begged. She carried her suffering in silence, and that silence spoke louder than the crowd's laughter. Daniel's boots scraped against the stone as he stepped forward. His tall figure moved through the market crowd and heads turned. Some thought he would add to the mockery. Others expected him to chase her away as well. But he did not walk toward the vendors. He walked toward her. The alien woman noticed his shadow before she saw his face. She froze, her heart beating fast. Another insult. Another cruel word, and she braced herself for it. Slowly she raised her eyes. Instead of hatred, she saw something she had not seen in years. Kindness. Do you need help? Daniel's voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. The woman blinked in shock. For a moment she thought she had imagined it. No one spoke to her like that. Her lips trembled, and she could not answer. The crowd began to murmur. What is he doing? Has he lost his mind? He'll regret touching her. But Daniel did not care. He took another step closer. He reached into his own bag and pulled out a cloth, offering it to her. Here, he said. You can use this. Her hand hovered in the air. She wanted to accept it, but fear held her back. Was this a trick? Would he snatch it away the moment she reached? Would he laugh like the others? Seeing her hesitation, Daniel did not push. Instead, he placed the cloth gently on a nearby crate, then stepped back. If you want it, it's yours, he said. The alien woman stared at the cloth as if it were a treasure. No one had ever given her anything freely. Slowly, with shaking fingers, she picked it up. She pressed it against her face, hiding the tears that had started to fall. Daniel's voice softened. Have you eaten? Her throat tightened. She shook her head. Hunger burned in her stomach, but the shame of admitting it was worse. Daniel sighed, then turned to the nearest stall. He reached into his pocket, pulled out coins, and bought bread. The vendor raised an eyebrow but dared not argue. Daniel was strong, his reputation known. With the bread in hand, he returned to her side. Here, he said again, holding it out. This time she did not refuse. She took the bread carefully as though it might vanish. The first bite made her close her eyes. Warmth spread through her body. She chewed slowly, as if savoring every piece of kindness inside it. Around them, the market grew restless. People whispered louder now. Some were angry. He's bringing shame on all of us. Helping her will only make him smell the same. He should let her rot. But Daniel stood firm. His jaw tightened, his eyes sharp. He had seen cruelty before, but this was different. This was a test of his own humanity. When the woman finished the bread, she tried to speak. Her voice was weak, but clear. Why are you helping me? Daniel looked at her and said simply, because no one else will. Her eyes widened. For a moment she forgot the pain, the shame, the whispers. His words pierced the walls she had built around her heart. Daniel extended his hand. Come with me, he said. You don't have to stay here. Gasps rose from the crowd. The idea was unthinkable. To take her anywhere, to bring her close, it was madness. But Daniel did not waver. His hand remained steady, waiting for her choice. The alien woman's breath came fast. Her whole life had been rejection. Every step she had taken was filled with humiliation. And now, for the first time, someone offered a different path. Fear battled with hope inside her. Could she trust him? Would this kindness last? Or was it only another cruel trick? She stared at his hand. Her body shook, her mind screamed in doubt, but her heart whispered one word: yes. With trembling fingers, she placed her hand in his. The market fell silent. The laughter died. The whispers froze. Everyone stared as the human man took the hand of the alien woman no one dared to touch. Daniel tightened his grip not with force but with promise. Then he turned, guiding her away from the market. Step by step they left the place of rejection behind. For the alien woman, it felt unreal. She was still dirty, still smelled, still worn. But now she was not alone. And for Daniel, it was only the beginning. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. People would talk. Neighbors would judge. But he had made his choice. One act of kindness had begun to change everything. Daniel led the alien woman out of the market streets. Behind them, the noise of gossip still followed, but the sound grew softer with every step. He did not look back. His grip on her hand was steady, strong enough to guide her, yet gentle enough to tell her she was safe. The woman walked with hesitation. Each step felt like a risk. Her mind screamed warnings. Every time she had trusted someone before, they had betrayed her. Why should this man be any different? But her heart felt something new, hope. She did not pull away. They reached the edge of the market where the crowd thinned. The smell of bread and smoke was replaced by the quiet rustle of trees. Here, away from the eyes of the vendors, Daniel finally stopped. He turned toward her, releasing her hand so she could breathe freely. "You don't have to fear me," Daniel said. His voice was calm, almost soft. "I won't hurt you." She looked down at her feet, too afraid to meet his eyes. Her hands clutched the cloth he had given her, holding it like a shield. For a long moment she stayed silent. Then her lips moved. "Why?" she whispered. Daniel frowned. "Why what? Why are you helping me?" Her voice cracked. "No one ever does." Daniel studied her face. Beneath the dirt, beneath the shame, he saw something fragile, yet unbroken. "Because I can't walk away," he said. "I won't be like them." The woman trembled. She wanted to believe him, but doubt clawed at her heart. What if this was only pity? What if tomorrow he too turned against her? Her fear made her body stiff, but Daniel noticed. "You don't have to trust me yet," he said. "But let me do one thing for you. Let me help you wash, eat, and rest. That's all I ask." His words struck her like a spark in the dark. She had not heard such an offer in years. The thought of clean water felt like a dream. But shame returned quickly, heavy and suffocating. She lowered her head and whispered, I smell. I will make your home unclean." Daniel shook his head. "Then we clean it together. Dirt can be washed, smell can fade, but no one should lose their dignity because of it." Her chest tightened. Dignity. A word she thought she had lost forever. Could she take it back? Could he really give it to her? The silence stretched. Daniel did not push her. He waited. His patience was not the silence of rejection, but the silence of respect. Slowly she raised her eyes. For the first time she dared to look into his. What she found there was not pity, not disgust, but honesty. Her throat burned. She wanted to speak, to thank him, but her words stuck. Instead, a tear slipped down her cheek. Daniel saw it and did not turn away. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small flask of water and offered it to her. "Drink," he said. Her hand shook as she took it. She raised it to her lips and sipped. The cool water slid down her throat, and she closed her eyes. It was not just water. It was proof that kindness was real. When she opened her eyes again, Daniel gave a small nod. "Come with me," he said. "My home is not far. You don't have to stay forever. Just one night. One night to rest." Her heart pounded. One night. It was such a simple offer, yet it felt impossible. Still, something inside her told her to accept. She whispered, "One night." Daniel smiled faintly. "Good," That's all we need to start. Together they walked down the quiet path leading out of the market. The crowd was gone now, but the memory of their cruelty lingered in her mind. She feared tomorrow, feared what others would say, but for this moment she allowed herself a small hope. The road stretched before them. Trees swayed in the wind and the sound of leaves filled the silence. Daniel walked beside her, not ahead, not behind, beside. The alien woman noticed this detail, and her heart stirred. He did not treat her as a burden, but as someone equal. At last, Daniel spoke again. "You never told me your name." She hesitated, then whispered it. The sound was faint, almost fragile, but Daniel repeated it with care as though it was precious. She lowered her head, shocked at how gently he said it. For years, her name had been used only in mockery. Now, for the first time, it sounded like something worth remembering. By the time they reached the edge of Daniel's home, night had begun to fall. The stars appeared one by one, shining like distant lanterns. She stared at them, her heart heavy with fear and wonder. Could this truly be the start of something new? Daniel opened the door to his house and stepped aside. He gestured for her to enter. She froze on the threshold. The smell of warmth and safety drifted from inside, but her body refused to move. What if she stepped in and ruined it? What if tomorrow he regretted everything? Daniel noticed her fear. He said softly, "You are welcome here. No one will turn you away tonight." Her chest rose and fell. With trembling legs, she stepped inside. For the alien woman, it was more than a house. It was the first door in years that had not been slammed in her face. And with that one step, she crossed from rejection into the fragile beginning of hope. Inside Daniel's home, the air was warm and calm. The small fire in the hearth gave off a gentle glow, filling the room with light. The alien woman stood near the doorway, frozen in place. She kept her hands close to her body, afraid of touching anything. The floor was clean, the walls simple but cared for, and she felt out of place like dirt on a white cloth. Daniel noticed her hesitation. He did not rush her. He moved slowly, setting down his bag on a wooden table. "You're safe here," he said, his tone steady. "No one will mock you. No one will throw stones. This place is yours as much as it is mine tonight." Her eyes darted across the room. Safety was a word she had almost forgotten. Even now, part of her did not believe it. Yet the warmth of the fire and the calm in Daniel's voice made her legs stop trembling. Daniel opened a small door to the "Sir, there's water here," he said. "A shower. It isn't much, but it's enough. You can wash as long as you like. I'll find some clothes for you." The word shower struck her heart. Her body stiffened. Memories returned. The long years without clean water. The endless days of people turning away because of the stench that clung to her skin. She lowered her head, ashamed. "I will make it dirty," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. "That's what water is for. Dirt belongs in the drain, not on you." Her chest tightened. For so long she believed she was nothing but filth. Now someone told her the dirt was separate, that it could be washed away. A tear slipped down her cheek. Daniel did not press further. He placed a folded towel and a bar of soap near the door. Then he stepped back. "Take your time. When you're done, there will be food waiting." He left her alone. The woman stood in silence, staring at the door. She held the towel in her hands, gripping it tightly. Fear gnawed at her. What if the water did not wash away the shame? What if the smell still clung to her? But her hunger for dignity was stronger than her fear. Slowly, she stepped inside. The room was small but clean. A metal pipe above released water with a twist of the handle. She hesitated, then turned it. A stream of cool water poured down. The sound filled the space, steady and pure. She placed her hand under it. The touch made her gasp. It was real, not a dream. She closed her eyes, stepped forward, and let the water fall over her head. For the first time in years, dirt slid off her skin. The grime that had clung to her for so long washed away in dark streams. She rubbed the soap against her arms, her face, her hair. Each moment felt like peeling away the layers of pain and rejection, tears mixed with the water. She was not only washing her body, she was washing her soul. With every drop that touched her skin, she felt lighter. The smell that had made people turn away was fading. The shame that had chained her heart was breaking apart. Minutes passed, but she did not count them. She stayed under the water until her legs grew weak. At last, she stepped back, breathing deeply. The air felt different now, cleaner, freer. She dried herself with the towel, her hands trembling. Then she looked at her reflection in the small, cracked mirror by the wall. For a moment, she did not recognize herself. The dirt was gone, the shadows under her eyes softer. She was still thin, still worn, but she looked alive. Outside, Daniel waited near the fire. He had placed a simple meal on the table and a clean dress folded neatly beside it. When the door finally opened, he turned. The alien woman stepped out, slowly, wearing the fresh dress. Her damp hair clung to her shoulders. She kept her eyes low, uncertain, but Daniel's gaze was steady. "You look like yourself again," he said. She froze, her heart pounding. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She whispered, "Myself?" "Yes," Daniel replied. "Not the person they laughed at, not the person they mocked, just you." Her throat tightened. The shame that had followed her for years lifted, replaced with a fragile warmth. She sat by the fire, and for the first time in so long, she felt human again. Daniel pushed the food toward her. "Eat," he said. She picked up the bread with careful fingers. The taste was simple, but it filled her with a joy stronger than any feast. Each bite reminded her that she was alive, that she mattered. Daniel watched her quietly, giving her space. He did not treat her like a burden, nor like a charity case. He treated her like a guest. When she finished, she placed her hands on her lap. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. Daniel nodded. "No one should live without dignity. Tonight you took it back." Her heart swelled. For the first time in years, she believed that maybe tomorrow could hold something more than rejection. Tonight, with clean skin, warm food, and kind company, she felt the beginning of hope. The firelight flickered across the small wooden table. The alien woman sat on one side, her damp hair falling around her shoulders, her clean dress soft against her skin. She kept her eyes lowered, still unused to being in a place where no one was glaring at her. The smell that once clung to her had been washed away, but in her heart she still carried the memory of rejection. Daniel placed a clay bowl of soup in front of her. Steam rose into the air, carrying the scent of herbs and vegetables. The warmth filled the room, wrapping around them both. He set his own bowl down across from hers, then sat quietly. "Eat," he said gently. She stared at the bowl. The spoon felt strange in her hand. It had been so long since she had eaten at a table, across from another person. Her usual meals were scraps in the alleys, chewed quickly before someone pushed her away. Now the food was clean, hot, and offered freely. She lifted the spoon, her hand trembling, and took a sip. The taste filled her mouth, rich and comforting. Her eyes closed, and for a moment she forgot the pain of the past. A tear slid down her cheek, but this time it was not from shame. Daniel watched her, but he did not speak. He gave her silence, letting her eat at her own pace. When she opened her eyes again, she found him calmly eating his soup. He did not stare, did not question. He simply shared the meal, as though it was the most natural thing in the world. The quiet stretched between them, but it was not heavy. For her, it was strange. Silence had always meant rejection, but here it meant peace. At last, she whispered, "Why do you share this with me?" Daniel set his spoon down and met her eyes. "Because no one should eat alone." Her chest tightened. The simple words broke through the walls she had built around her heart. She looked at him, trying to understand. There was no mockery in his eyes, no hidden cruelty, only honesty. Slowly, she nodded and continued eating. Each bite felt like healing. Each sip reminded her that she was alive, that someone cared enough to feed her. When the bowls were empty, Daniel leaned back in his chair. "How long has it been since you had a proper meal?" She hesitated, then whispered, "I don't remember. Too long." Daniel frowned. He wanted to ask more, but he saw the pain in her face. He decided not to press her. Instead, he said, "Then, tonight you start again." His words sank deep into her heart. Start again. Could she truly? The thought was frightening, but also beautiful. The fire crackled, filling the silence. She stared at the flames, her hands wrapped tightly around the empty bowl. Memories of hunger, of cruel laughter, of nights spent in the cold, pressed against her mind. But when she looked at Daniel, those memories began to fade. "You will regret this," she whispered suddenly. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because of me," she said. "The people will laugh at you. They will hate you for helping me. Already they whisper." Daniel's jaw tightened. He knew she was right. The market would not stay silent. But he shook his head. "Let them whisper. Their cruelty is their shame, not mine." Her eyes widened. She had never heard anyone speak like that before. Most people feared gossip more than truth. But Daniel's voice carried strength. For the first time, she felt someone was willing to stand beside her, no matter what others thought. The firelight danced on his face, making his eyes glow with determination. She studied him, her heart racing. Why would a man risk so much for her? She had no answer. Daniel stood and cleared the table. She tried to rise to help, but he stopped her with a small shake of his head. "You've carried enough weight," he said. "Tonight, rest." Her throat ached with unsaid words. Gratitude burned in her chest, but she could not speak it aloud. Instead, she sat quietly, watching him move. Each act of kindness felt like a stone lifted from her heart. When he finished, Daniel placed a blanket on a chair near the fire. "You can sleep here," he said. "The fire will keep you warm." She touched the blanket with careful hands. It was soft, clean, and warm, unlike the rags she had used on the streets. She looked at him and whispered, "Why do you give me so much?" Daniel paused, then said, "Because sometimes one act of kindness can change a life, and maybe tonight it can change yours." Her eyes filled with tears again. She pulled the blanket around her shoulders, holding it close. She felt something she had not felt in years. Safety. Daniel sat across the room, watching the flames. He did not press her with questions, did not demand anything in return. He simply stayed near, as though his presence alone was enough to guard her. The alien woman lay down, her body sinking into the warmth of the chair. She listened to the fire crackle, to the steady sound of Daniel's breathing. For the first time in years, her eyes closed without fear of stones, laughter, or hunger waking her. That night, she slept not as an outcast, but as a guest. And deep inside, a fragile seed of trust began to grow. The morning sun spread its light across the small town. Stalls opened one by one and the market slowly filled with life again. But while the bread baked and the merchants called for customers, whispers filled the air. Everyone was talking about Daniel. They had seen him walk out of the market with the alien woman, her smell trailing behind her. They had seen her dirt-stained face, her trembling steps, and yet he had not turned away. He had held her hand. To the people it was shocking. To many it was unforgivable. At one stall a group of women spoke in low voices. "He took her into his home," one said. "He must be mad," another replied. "Or cursed." A third added, shaking her head. "No good will come from sheltering someone like her." At another corner men gathered around barrels. "He will regret it," one muttered. "She will bring sickness," another warned. "She is nothing but shame," the last said, slamming his fist against the wood. The gossip spread like wildfire. By midday the whole market knew, and by nightfall the whispers had turned into threats. Inside Daniel's home, the alien woman woke to the sound of birds outside. She sat up slowly, still wrapped in the blanket he had given her. For the first time in years, she had slept deeply, without hunger gnawing her belly or cold biting her skin. She touched her hair, now clean, and breathed in. The stench was gone. She was free from the smell that had chained her to shame. Daniel entered the room carrying a small basket of fruit. "You slept well," he said with a smile. She nodded shyly. "Better than I remember." "Good. That's how it should be." He set the fruit down. "Eat. You'll need strength." She hesitated. Strength for what? Daniel looked at her carefully. He knew the market would not stay quiet. He knew the town would not accept his choice easily. "Strength for whatever comes," he said at last. By afternoon, the rumors had reached his doorstep. Neighbors passed by his home, some pretending to walk by accident, others slowing their steps to glare. A stone clattered against the side of his wall. The alien woman flinched at the sound. Daniel stood in the doorway, his arms crossed. His eyes swept over the street, daring anyone to throw another. None did, but the message was clear. They were watching. Inside, she trembled. "They hate me," she whispered. "They will turn on you too." Daniel turned to her, his voice steady. "Let them hate. I will not send you away." Her eyes filled with tears. "But why risk yourself?" "Because kindness without risk is easy," he said. "Real kindness costs something, and I will pay that price." His words struck her deeply. She wanted to believe him, but fear still weighed heavy. She had seen how quickly anger grew in crowds. She had seen how rejection turned into cruelty. That evening, as the sun dipped low, 3 men knocked on Daniel's door. Their voices were sharp. "Daniel," one called, "we need to speak." Daniel opened the door calmly. "Then speak." The tallest man stepped forward. His face was hard, his eyes cold. "You've brought her here. Everyone knows. She is unclean, she is shame. If you keep her, the whole town will suffer her stench." Daniel's jaw tightened. "She is clean now, cleaner than your hearts." The men shifted uneasily, but the tall one sneered. "You think you can protect her? You think one man can fight against all of us?" Daniel's eyes burned with quiet fire. "If I must." The alien woman watched from the shadows, her heart racing. She wanted to hide, to beg him not to fight for her, but her voice caught in her throat. For the first time, someone was standing against the world for her sake. The tall man spat on the ground. "This is your last warning. Send her away, or we will make you regret it." Daniel stepped forward, his voice like steel. "Then do what you must, but she stays." The 3 men glared, but none dared step closer. They turned and walked away, muttering curses under their breath. When the door closed, silence filled the house. The alien woman looked at Daniel, her eyes wide with fear and awe. "They will come again," she whispered. "Then I will be here again," he said simply. Her lips trembled. "I don't deserve this." Daniel walked closer, lowering his voice. "You deserve more than what they gave you. You deserve dignity, and no threat will change that." Her tears fell freely now. For years, she had believed she was nothing, that her worth had been stolen by cruelty and shame. But tonight, in the warmth of his home, with his words echoing in her heart, she began to believe something new. She was not alone anymore, and though the town whispered and threatened, though the world stood against her, one human stood with her, and that was enough to change everything. The days that followed were heavy with tension. Daniel and the alien woman lived in the quiet of his home, but outside, the town whispered. Neighbors turned their backs when he walked through the market. Some spat at the ground when they passed. Others muttered threats under their breath. The woman saw it all. Each insult cut her, not because it was new, but because now someone else bore the weight with her. She feared what would happen next. One night, she sat by the fire, her voice low. "You should send me away. Your life was simple before me. Now they hate you too." Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady. I will not send you away. A home without kindness is no home at all. Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken words like that for her sake. Yet she could not shake the fear that his kindness would cost him too much. The test came sooner than either expected. On the 7th morning, a crowd gathered outside Daniel's door. Voices rose, angry and sharp. Stones rattled against the walls louder than before. "Send her out," someone shouted. "She does not belong here," another cried. "She will curse us all." The woman froze, her body trembling. She pressed, her hands to her ears, tears burning in her eyes. "They will hurt you," she whispered. Daniel stood tall. He opened the door wide and stepped outside. The crowd fell silent for a moment, staring at him. Then the shouts began again, louder, more violent. Daniel raised his hand. His voice carried over the noise. Enough. The people quieted, though their eyes burned with anger. Daniel's gaze swept over them. "You shame yourselves. You call her filth, but what I see is not filth. I see cruelty. I see hearts that have forgotten what it means to be human." Murmurs ran through the crowd. Some shifted uncomfortably, but others scowled. "She smells," one man spat. "She spreads. Shame," a woman cried. Daniel shook his head. "She smelled because she was left to rot by people who turned away. She carried shame because you forced it on her. And yet, even covered in dirt, she showed more strength than all of you. You mocked her, but she endured. She is worth more than your insults." The alien woman stood just inside the doorway, clutching the frame, her heart pounding. Every word Daniel spoke felt like fire burning away the chains she had carried for so long. Daniel's voice grew firm. "She is not leaving. She is part of my home now. And if you wish to harm her, you will have to come through me." Silence fell over the crowd. No one moved. They saw the fire in his eyes, the strength in his stance. Daniel was only one man, but his courage weighed heavier than all their anger. Slowly, people began to lower their heads. Some turned away in shame. Others muttered and left, unwilling to fight him. Within minutes, the crowd was gone, leaving only the echo of their fading footsteps. Inside the house, the alien woman's knees gave way. She sank to the floor, her chest heaving with emotion. Daniel closed the door and knelt beside her. "They will hate you forever," she whispered. Daniel placed his hand gently over hers, then let them. "I would rather be hated for kindness than praised for cruelty." Her tears flowed freely now. She turned toward him, her voice trembling. "Why? Why me?" Daniel's eyes softened. "Because you deserve what they denied you. Dignity, warmth, and family. You deserve to know you are not alone." The word family struck her heart like a bell. She had lost her own long ago. She had walked the streets with no one to call her name, no one to care if she lived or died. Now, this man offered her what she thought was gone forever. She pressed, her forehead to his hand, sobbing. "I do not know how to thank you." Daniel lifted her chin gently. "You already have, by staying." That night, as the fire burned low, the alien woman sat wrapped in the blanket he had given her. She looked around the small home, at the simple walls, the table where they had shared food, the chair where she had slept. Every corner whispered a new truth. She was no longer unwanted. Daniel placed another log on the fire. "Tomorrow will not be easy," he said. "But tomorrow is ours to face together." She nodded, her heart full. For the first time in years, the fear that had always followed her was gone. In its place was something fragile but strong, belonging. Outside, the stars filled the sky, distant but shining. She lifted her eyes to them and breathed deeply. For so long she had been shunned. For so long she had believed she was nothing but shame. But now one human had given her back her dignity, her worth, and a place to call home. And though the world still whispered inside those walls, she had found something greater than acceptance. She had found family.